Maharishi, your interpretation of the Yoga Sutras has brought a whole new sort of a fresh breeze into Indian philosophy. And I was wondering if you'd help clear up some of the translations of the sutras that right now are translated in a pretty strange way for meditators.
No one should read the books in the market. These Brahma Sutras, these Upanishads, these Vedas, the translations do not do justice to the message contained therein. So we look at it from our angle, which we, like anybody else, says is a right angle.
The sutra, first one I wanted to ask you about is the second of the Yoga Sutras, which is supposed to define what yoga is. And it's a sutra, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, which is usually translated as yoga is the restriction of the fluctuations of the mind stuff. And I was wondering if you could explain what that really means, and especially if you could explain...
It just means transcendental consciousness is a state of yoga in which mind is not functioning.
Now, the second word there, chitta, is that translated as mind? Is that... It's because...
In English, that is the word.
Well, you once defined mind as vibrating consciousness.
Beautiful.
And and in the Yoga Sutras, when they describe how chitta is how we're able to reflect transcendental pure consciousness, they describe it by explaining how these vibrations of chitta can be in different stages. And these are the stages of samadhi. And I was wondering if you could say something about the various stages of samadhi.
All those stages described, they are different levels of your experience. When you start the mantra, you have the mantra, and then the mind at every moment is settling down, settling down, settling down, settling down. Another state is that you have transcended. That's also a state of samadhi. Now you come into a thought, yet you don't lose that pure awareness. It's there with thought. That means the immovable transcendental consciousness along with moving thoughts. That's also a state of samadhi. And then that pure awareness has come outside even along with actions. That's also a samadhi. Different states of samadhi, but all of them are verified by your experience of TM. All these.
So that
in one stroke of TM, all the states of samadhi described in the Yoga Sutras, aphorisms of yoga by Patanjali, there you are experiencing the whole thing.
Now, if we pass through each one of the stages of samadhi, each time that we sit to meditate, then could you explain, now usually the grossest stage of samadhi is called Vitarka. Could you explain what Vitarka Samadhi is? It's usually described in terms of almost of a contemplative description. But since we don't contemplate, what would it be in...
In our case, we don't contemplate, but that state we can, you can locate what that state is. Very clearly you are pronouncing the mantra, clear pronunciation of the mantra on the gross thinking level, a little subtler than the gross, but the mantra is clear. When it becomes much subtler, then that clarity of pronunciation becomes dim, very dim. Vitarka, where one could discriminate. Tarka is logic, discrimination. You can discriminate, you can distinguish from one sound to the other sound, you can discriminate. That is that level which is a finer level of thought, but the thought is clearly definable.
Then the next stage is called Vichara. So that's...
Vichara is thought. Thought. You know that the mantra is not clear, yet there is a thought finer than that. Finer. Where you know you have not transcended, yet the mind is on the active level, but it's not active which can be on the level of discrimination. It's just on the faint thinking level. That is that level.
And then Asmita, does that have anything to do with this mother is at home? Oh.
We will take that separately.
Okay.
Even though it's very near there. But this mother is at home is a level where you feeling, that thought level, thought. You just said Vichara, that level. Finer than that is what you call it?
Asmita.
Asmita. That amness, asmi, am, that level. And that is transcendental level. I am. It's amness. And then
there's Ananda, there's
that Ananda is a wave of that. It's Asmita, Asmi, amness. And then amness is now expanding. It's a very beautiful state. Am is an individual, individualness, amness. Now, the amness is a direct awareness, but amness, individual. Now this individuality is expanding, and in the expansion is that Ananda, bliss or happiness, in the expansion of individuality. And then
there's Abhija Samadhi?
Asamprajna.
Asamprajna.
That means this amness, expansion of amness, envelops everything that there might be, everything that there is. And this amness gains the status of isness. individuality has expanded to infinite value. And this is then beyond control. Nothing more than this. Isness, amness has ended into isness. It's infinite value of life. This is you see. The extreme level of individuality, which is boundless individuality. It's universality. It's Brahman. That is Brahman. The state of all-pervading, absolute and relative both together. Isness. Amness has developed into isness. We don't say amness has merged into isness. That idea of merging is no good. Expansion, unboundedness, growth towards more and more, and then eventually to the infinite value. Isness. And that isness is atam pragyat, or nitya samadhi, that is eternal silence, life of eternal silence, practical life in eternal silence, living. Silence is living life.
Another sort of confusing thing to me in the Yoga Sutras, the translation I read.
See? Now what you are verifying is the whole expression of the aphorisms of yoga. The whole yoga philosophy you are verifying, you are starting to live the reality of the philosophy of yoga. Philosophy of yoga is through TM a living reality of day-to-day life.
Now, there's a mention of something which is translated as discriminative discernment, but the word is viveka kyati. And
this is that. That which you can understand by discrimination has become an omnipresent reality. It has become an all-time reality. This is that you see.
These 7 stages of Viveka Kyati that are mentioned, are these the same as the 7 stages of Samadhi that we just talked about?
We would say 7 stages of cosmic, of consciousness. 7 stages, right from sleep and dream and waking, TC, CC, GC, UC.
Now it seems that in reading the Yoga Sutras that, is it possible that Patanjali was only in cosmic consciousness? Because he says some things that are very strange for someone who might, because he speaks in terms of duality, that the highest reality is duality. And he also...
There he speaks of CC.
Yes. And
but
also...
he wouldn't end there. No.
And another thing is that many people who study Indian philosophy think that the Samkhya and the Yoga schools of thought believe in many Purushas. And could you tell us how this misunderstanding could have arisen? In other words, they believe that each person has can contact an infinite, unbounded area of pure consciousness, but that it's separate for each person. Somehow you could have many infinite, unbounded areas, which seems like an absurdity, but for many generations, philosophers have interpreted the Samkhya system as holding this. Could you tell us how this misunderstanding could have arisen?
This interpretation may be validated on the individual level of life. This interpretation then does not include the cosmic level of life. There could be Purusha on the individual level of life, and then there is Purusha, so many Purusha. Each individual has his own Purusha. But there is another level of life, cosmic level of life, where the Purusha will be the collective value of all the individual Purushas, and that will be one Purusha, cosmic Purusha.
I see. Now, when you were speaking the other night of the 6 systems of Indian philosophy, you said that in order to know anything, you had to know it through all 6, it had to be verified through all 6 systems of Indian philosophy. Now, is it possible that the actual sages who created these 6 systems, or who at least presented them to the world, is it possible that they weren't aware of the interrelationship between the 6 systems? I mean, I'm sure that Shankara was aware, but the earlier ones, the Vaisheshika and Nyaya, that perhaps they thought that this was the view of reality as presented in their philosophy, and they didn't realize that they only had 1/6 of reality.
Everyone knew the whole thing, only for the sake of teaching. Each level of understanding had to be philosophized in its completeness, so that no matter what one studies, one gets the knowledge of the whole, and yet the next one will add to this knowledge of the whole, and the next one will add to this knowledge of the whole. Every system is so very complete in its intellectual value, yet it takes one to the door of the other system. It's a very profound criteria of knowledge in all these 5.
Now, when we think of how we can relate, say, Western science with these 6 systems of Indian philosophy, is it that Western science is included within some of the systems of Indian philosophy, or how does it relate as a way of knowing?
Very tiny, small bit is this Western science. Indian philosophy comprehends the whole infinite value. Here what we call scientific is direct perception. It includes some value of inference. It has some characteristic of recognizing the authenticity of previous ones. But this authenticity is very is challengeable. Some truths investigated by direct experience, later on they are contradicted, they are negated, gone. They don't comprehend these. What we call science is a very, very limited area or limited method of gaining knowledge, very limited.
Now, you said also that Shankara wrote from the level of unity. The Vedanta system of philosophy was written from the level of unity consciousness. Now, Shankara's commentary on the Bhagavad Gita seems to take, it seems to be only be able to understood from those terms, because he emphasizes so much the idea of jnana, knowledge, as not opposed to, but as different from karma, or action. Now, in his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, he talks about people who are qualified for action and people who are qualified for knowledge. Now, it seems that...
And that's a misinterpretation, huh?
Oh, it's not, okay.
Because each man is capable of action and knowledge, and action after gaining knowledge. Is this correct? where these interpreters divide, that they say that there are paths of knowledge and path of action and path of devotion and path of yoga. This is such a stupid interpretation of the whole. Every man is born to enjoy the glory of all these paths and the goal of all these. They are not separate paths like that. They are the separate segments of one path. One path and then 4 segments like that. It's not. And then they justify their vision by saying that because all men are not the same, different men are different in their tendencies, in their knowledge, in their level of consciousness, and therefore different paths suit different people. And it sounds logical on the level of ignorance. It's very logical. Different paths for different people. Who can say no to it? Such a logical statement. But the whole thing is so stupid. It's just that word which we even hesitate to speak. They are not the 4 paths. Every man must be a yogi. That means must have traversed the path of yoga. Every man must be a jnani, must have traversed the path of jnana, path of knowledge. Every man must be a bhakta, a devotee, who must have traversed the path of devotion. Every man must be, what is left? Karma. Every man must be a karmi, a doer, an actor. Life can't be without action anyway. So he must be an actor, having been established in that infinite value. So each man has to be perfect. Not that one man will be a yogi and other will be a karmi and the third will be a devotee and the fourth will be a jnani. No. It's a very great ignorance.
Well, in the commentary on the Gita, what I was thinking was, from what you have said in the past, you said that up to God consciousness, it seems to me you said that up into God consciousness we have techniques that we practice to gain God, cosmic consciousness and God consciousness. Right. But that from God consciousness to unity, that it was a matter of living for some time in God consciousness. Now, also you've said that although clear understanding has no purpose has no effect without direct experience, yet clear understanding is important. Now, what I'd like to know is, what is the relationship, is there a special relationship of clear understanding to the transition from God consciousness to the state of unity?
Just this understanding does the trick, that's all. Nothing. And for this understanding to be right, that this is not relative, this is the absolute, just that. And it happens automatically. That, what is that verse you are referring to? Some 38th verse of some 4th or 6th chapter, something?
I couldn't tell you.
That's a very good verse. That summarizes how, after living God consciousness for some time, you see dawns automatically. One doesn't have to do anything. It's enough that one's nervous system is functioning at the height, at the highest level of functioning, where the digestive system is producing the most valuable product which nourishes the nervous system. And from that level of supreme level of capacity of the nervous system, the vision naturally gains infinite value in every perception. Very naturally.
Now, the thing is,
that is the reason why Vedanta philosophy does not accept any effort to gain unity. All the exposition of this highest philosophy, Vedanta, is on the level of understanding, jnana. No method is prescribed, no technique is laid out, no system is brought to practice. Nothing is needed. But only when one has gained that basic ground of God consciousness, as if God consciousness is the foundation on which unity is structured. So once one has gained that foundation, once one has gained that God consciousness, nothing more need be done to come to unity. Coming to unity is a spontaneous step up, as if you have put your foot on the escalator and there you are.
Now, if a person gained cosmic consciousness or God consciousness or God consciousness, let's say this, and he had no access to the knowledge of the Vedas, it seems that Shankara seems to say that the knowledge of the Vedas is a it's absolutely necessary to gain unity, consciousness. He seems to imply that without having an understanding of that possibility, that a man in cosmic consciousness would feel fulfilled, or he would not be able to go to this next step. Is that right?
We know from our own meditation that we have to be in the relative in order to transcend and get to transcendental. The whole field of relativity is the field of the Veda knowledge. All the relative existence, all the mechanics of creation, evolution, they are all brought to light in the Veda.
So he's not referring to the verbal knowledge.
No, he is referring to the attainment of highest relative life as a prerequisite to stepping on to unity. GC is what? Attainment of the highest relative value of life in order to step on to UC. This is necessary. Veda is necessary, means relative value of knowledge is necessary to step on to the absolute. Veda is necessary for Vedanta. Vedanta means the end of the Veda. You have to traverse the whole range of Veda to step to Vedanta. Vedanta, anta of the Veda, end of the Veda. So in order to reach the end, you must traverse the whole range.
If Vedanta is the system of philosophy which is equivalent to the state of unity, and if karma mimamsa or purva mimamsa is the system of philosophy which corresponds to the state of God consciousness,
right.
Could you tell us which states of consciousness each of the other systems of Indian philosophy correspond to?
We can say yoga belongs to CC. We can say TC belongs to Samkhya, because transcendental reality may be counted as Purusha of the Samkhya. Purusha. So, fourth state, Samkhya, fifth, yoga, sixth, karma mimamsa, seventh, Vedanta.
So Nyaya Visheshika, just in the waking state of consciousness.
Vaisheshika, analyze the special qualities, relative state, and then in that relative, and waking, dreaming, sleeping, all come out. And Nyaya is the science of justice. The word Nyaya means justice. If we want to do justice to knowledge and to knower and to the object of knowledge, all the three, then Nyaya is the philosophy. Nyaya is the first system which contains the seeds of all the systems. This one Nyaya is enough for all liberation and achievement. I would even go to say that all these other five systems are elaboration of certain specific values of Nyaya. Certain specific values of Nyaya give rise to Vaisheshika, certain other give rise to Samkhya, certain other to Yoga, to Karma Mimamsa, to Vedanta. That 16th Nigrahasthan, the stage of no more going, Nigraha, where all the march is stopped. That is the 16th category of Nyaya. That is the transcendental reality, that is Vedanta. We have just to look into the 16 categories of Nyaya and we will locate all the categories of these five other systems coming out of some of them. Therefore, Nyaya philosophy may be taken to be a complete philosophy that does justice to life, that does justice to knowledge, that does justice to individuality and cosmic reality. It's a science of justice. It does justice to knowledge. And its expansion is found in other five values. That in this way we find a sequence of development. We find a sequence of development. The sequence is developed. And therefore they are not isolated from one another. The disaster that has come to India has been due to misunderstanding of these six systems. That holistic value of all the six was not brought to light. The sequence wherefrom the Nyaya gives rise to all other, that was not brought to light, and this led all these six systems to remain isolated from one another, and therefore not one man's life could derive advantage from all the six. Some would study only this, some other only this, some other only this, some other only this. So the holistic value of philosophy remained obscured, and that's why holistic value of life remained obscured. This is what led India to all this state of ignorance and continued suffering.